I have one question. One key question before we get into the rest of the content for this video. It's a very simple question, but I think it's absolutely relevant. Are you not entertained? Because if you aren't, I don't know how to help you. This is Ragnarok, Shumatsu no Valkyrie, what we have been waiting for. The anime dropped on Netflix today. All 12 episodes of season 1. I just finished watching episode 1 twice. Once with, surprisingly, didn't for some reason, English dub, and once with the Japanese subs. I watched it twice, and now I'm sitting here so excited. You guys can see me bouncing up and down in my seat because this... Alright, just right off the bat, let's talk about the big elephant in the room right off the bat. Let's talk about the animation. The thing that there was so much negativity surrounding since the trailer drops. And I'm going to say one key thing to everyone. That's why I asked the question. Are you not entertained? Like, seriously. How do you not like this episode? No, it's not Demon Slayer level animation, but I'm sorry, not everything is going to be Hellsing Ultimate or like Demon Slayer and stuff like that. Not everything is going to be, not every anime adaptation is going to have 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10 movie studio level animation. I'm sorry. It's just not. But I've seen far worse. And honestly, I give the animation a solid 8 out of 10 for this first episode. And we haven't really gotten into any of the fight scenes yet. We haven't really started around. So... I mean, I'm only expecting it to get better, right? Like, all the stills, yes, was there quite a number of stills? Of course there was, but the fact of the matter is they are detailed. They're extremely detailed, even when they're doing stills and stuff. Brunhilde, which I've always called Brunhild, so I guess I got to change that. But Brunhilde always looks good. She's always extremely detailed. The gods, Shiva and all them, they always look very good. There was a bit of lacking in animation at the start of the episode, of course, but once again, it's more like a prologue. It was more like an introduction. Here's what we're doing. Here's how it's going. Let's save the animation budget for the actual goddamn fight, right? Why not? So, just right off the bat, I think all the naysayers can sit the fuck down. I really do. Like, once again, it's not 10 out of 10, but it's solid. It's definitely decent. It's above average animation. It's a solid 7, if not, I think it's an 8 so far from what we've seen. I don't have a single problem with any of the animation I have seen. A lot of them, as I said, are moving stills or moving panels and stuff, but at the same time, this was more like a prologue, more like an introduction, and I expect the next episodes to be more detailed, heavier animation. Heimdall had some of the best animation. Lubu's introduction was perfectly animated. I can't see how you'd make it better. So I'm really not having much of a problem. So just that right out of the way, if you want my opinion on the animation, I think I was correct to say we should wait for the anime to drop with all this negativity surrounding a couple of 30-second teaser trailers, people. Come on. And I think I was absolutely right. I think the animation is solid. It's not perfect, but I never expected it to be perfect. Okay? So that out of the way. Let's talk about the hype things. Let's talk about the things that I loved about this episode. One thing I loved about the episode is that they're changing the pacing from Chapter 1. Right? Chapter 1 is very long, and we get a lot of dialogue, a lot of info dumping at the very beginning. They decided instead they're going to move those scenes. We're going to get those scenes, guys. We're going to get those scenes. But they're going to be moved. They're going to be moved and changed around for the sake of pacing an anime, which is the correct way to do things. You can't take a manga shot by shot. This was a mistake that the Seven Deadly Sins anime seasons were doing. And a lot of other animes I've seen this make this mistake before is where they take everything panel by panel, shot by shot, and it sort of either slows down or the pacing's too fast or too quick. The fight scenes feel clunky, that type of stuff, right? So they've decided to move these scenes around, not necessarily change the content of the scenes. They're just picking them out and putting them in different places. I fully expect to get the scenes later on. Now, some of the other changes, which once again, we might see in flashbacks, they might be part of the rounds, etc., but the only key changes that I noticed, other than clearly moving a scene, which we'll talk about, but the only changes I noticed in this episode from the manga was the dragon. The dragon, Zeus's dragon. Correct me if I'm wrong. I did watch the episode twice. As I said, once with the English dub, which pleasantly surprised that there was an English dub. I don't know why I was surprised. I just was. I didn't expect one. And once with the Japanese subs. So, and we'll get into that in a minute. But in all honesty, I found that the whole dragon thing was unnecessary, anyways. And in the episode, the dragon looked more like just a throne, just a statue. Like, I don't remember the dragon actually ever moving or us seeing it move. I could be wrong. Watched the episode twice, but I wasn't really paying too much attention to that. So if the dragon wasn't it didn't really make sense anyways in the context. It wasn't really relevant. And if it's not relevant and they remove it, I'm fine with it. I truly am. I don't know how you guys felt about that, but Zeus killing the dragon doesn't really affect the rest of the story. So it was a dragon statue instead of a real dragon. Fine dandy. I just don't care. But maybe it was still the dragon or whatever, but either way, I thought it was relevant. The other thing was our first introduction for, of course, Thor. Thor's introduction is slightly different. Not his introduction into the arena, but how we first are introduced to Thor. And we have that demon of lust, the incubus or whatever his name was. And that scene was a little graphic. A little too R-rated, had they kept the whole scene in there. Now, once again, we might get a flashback of this scene later. This could be a moved scene, potentially. Maybe not necessarily removed. But if it was removed, or if we're going to see it later, first off, if we're going to see it later, I think they might be changing. They might remove a certain part of that scene, just saying. Not going to talk about it here. But, I just don't see it. Now, once again, this anime is, for all intents and purposes, rated R. And they got away, which was absolutely hilarious, and we'll talk about when they started using the word fuck, and I was just like, oh, it shouldn't have been surprising, but it was even they sort of did a little bit of a fourth wall break in that, and I actually really enjoyed that. But, so even if they do keep that scene in and move it to another spot, wasn't really a relevant scene. And even if they do include it, I think it'd be heavily edited anyways. And it wasn't relevant. I just didn't care that scene was removed. And I do like the fact that they moved, of course, the big scene. The scene which I think we will get later, where Brunhilde explains to Gol, here's how, of course we're going to fight for humanity, why wouldn't I fight for humanity and stuff? And we start to see her goals sort of idea. This is what she wants to do. She wants to champion. And we do get that from this episode. We just don't hear her talking privately to her sister about it. All that being said, right now we have an 8 out of 10 animation. I think that the pacing was absolutely fine, and it was the correct choice to basically get us to jump right into round 1 as quick as possible. And then they can sort of fill out in between the fight. They can sort of fill out when they do the backstories and stuff. They can fill out a couple scenes with Brunhilde talking to Gol and stuff like that. And we'll get, if these scenes are relevant and if they are missing and we need the context, I'm sure they're just going to be moved into a different placement in a sort of flashback style. And I have no problem with that. I had no problem with the pacing of the episode. We're basically hitting the ground running, trying to get straight into round 1, and that's not a bad decision in my opinion. Now, so animation, perfectly good, and so is the pacing of this episode. Now, the next thing is, as I sort of talked about briefly there, was I was pleasantly surprised to see an English dub. I don't know why. I knew it was being released on Netflix, globally and stuff, and of course English is usually what people dub it in. But I was so shocked, and then I was worried. Because the first time I watched the episode, I watched it in the English dub, and I was like, okay, I think I'm going to have to do a comparison regardless if I like it or not. And once again, pleasantly surprised because I recognize a lot of the voice actors from other things and stuff. I think all the voice actors were well chosen. Are they all perfect? No, but I think Zeus is perfect. I think Brunhilde is perfect. Odin's perfect. The narrator is... I can see why some people might not like the very heavy and gruffness of the voice, but I really like the voice actor. He did some of the, I believe, if I know who it is, he was in some of the Knights of the Old Republic games. He's in BioWare games and stuff, and I love those games. So recognizing that voice, I'm like, yeah, this guy again. All right, cool. For certain scenes, might have to tone down. He sort of dialed it up to 11 for some of the stuff. Impossible, this, that, and trying to build the hype, which I understand. The hype is being built, and it's the first episode. So hopefully if the narrator is going to continue to do the explanation, like the text boxes that explain stuff like the manga style is going to do, if they're going to continue with a narration style for the rest of the season, I imagine that he might be able to, he'll probably tone it down for certain more technical explanations and scenes rather than just building the hype like Heimdall's doing. And that being said, once again, Heimdall, another great voice actor choice. Like I have very little problem with any of the voice actors. We didn't really hear enough from Aphrodite. Sort of becomes, well, irrelevant for the most part, so it doesn't really matter. Shiva's voice, didn't really hear enough from Shiva to really judge it quite yet. It's a little different than what I thought it would be. And actually pleasantly surprised by Gaul. Gaul's voice actor, I always thought that Gaul was going to be extremely annoying because some people don't really like her in the manga for certain reasons. She's like always the crybaby, always the wow, she's always the, you know, that sort of person. So it'd be very easy for them to cast someone with a very nasally, very childlike, very like gritting to hear sort of voice, but actually really like the voice. And as I said, Brunhilde's voice is perfect. I wouldn't have chosen a better one. Same with Zeus and stuff. So definitely, I'm excited to hear a lot of the other voices. We haven't really heard, I don't believe we heard Lubu or Thor speak yet. So interesting to see what their voices are going to sound like. But I think from here on out, because I did do a comparison with the Japanese subs, but in the end of the day, I had so little problem with any of the English that I think I'm just going to stick to the English. That way I can enjoy the show, enjoy the animation, and not be reading my show, right? So I found the Japanese was perfectly fine too, but as the English dub was quite well cast as far as I'm concerned, I think I'm going to watch the rest of the season in the English dub. What did you guys think though of the English? Did you watch it in English or Japanese or both? And what did you think comparison-wise? Curious to hear your thoughts. So that's voice acting, which once again, I think voice acting for both, solid 8, 9 out of 10. Haven't heard enough from everybody quite yet, you know, but I think so far some of the voice actors were perfect. So the rest of it, I guess it's just the direction of the episode, which sort of in lies I already sort of talked about with the pacing. Soundtrack wise, I haven't heard the ending theme yet because I only of course watched episode 1 and they end with the opening, right? So I watched the opening at the end of the episode. I think it starts off the hype really good with the cheering and the chanting, but the whole death metal sort of vibe they're going for isn't really my cup of tea in music. I'm not really a heavy metal sort of guy or a punk rock sort of guy. You know what it reminds me of? It sort of reminds me of the same sort of opening like Death Note opening 2. Just too much screamo, too much heavy for my taste. But I understand why they chose that. And honestly, not the biggest fan of the way they're doing the opening. Like realistically, unless they're going to change it up each round or something like that, and they're going to change it up because we don't really see enough shots of anybody new. It's only everybody that's in the first episode that we see. I don't believe we actually see anybody else. So no round 2 people, no round 3 people, none of that. Only the people we saw in episode 1 are in the opening, with the exception of one character, which would be Loki. So I find that kind of odd. They're choosing to do that. That seems kind of odd to me. But you know, it's up to you guys. Realistically, the opening doesn't really matter that much. I don't think it does. I haven't heard the ending yet. I'll when I see episode 2, I'll be sure to listen to the ending. And then the soundtrack. I guess we'll end off with the soundtrack. The soundtrack wise, once again, we didn't really hear enough of it. But I found they cut the music at 2 distinct scenes, one with Heimdall and one with Brunhilde. And I thought that was an excellent choice to boom, silence. We could hear there was music in the background. None of the soundtrack was, or OST, none of it was really relevant and nothing was really like wow popping yet. But once again, it's basically the prologue. It's the introduction episode and we're hitting the ground running by already having Lubu face off against Thor. You know, technically speaking, if they're going to adapt from the manga, that would be basically episode 2, even episode 3 before we actually got into the fight. So I thought that was an excellent choice. I can't really say much on the soundtrack because nothing was super memorable, nothing was super loud and like, whoa, yeah, this is the right, you know, music for this scene sort of idea. But it's only the first episode, so I can't really say yay or nay on the actual soundtrack itself quite yet. But yeah, so I guess final thoughts. The manga differences, once again, I don't find there is many manga differences quite yet. We'll have to get into the fight and see how gory they want to get. We're going to have to see, even though it is rated R and stuff like that, I doubt they're going to be as graphic as the manga was. That's usually the case with every anime adaptation, though. So the people that are expecting it to be as gory, I don't think they've ever seen an anime adaptation before by that logic. It's very, very rare for them to get as bloody and gory, with some exceptions, of course. But generally speaking, there's less blood, there's less this, there's less that, right? So we're going to have to wait for the fights to actually see how far they're going to actually take this, right? How far they're going to take it. The one, as I said, the one key scene other than that I wanted to talk about was, as I said, I liked everything. I liked Heimdall. I love that Heimdall had his moment to shine, just completely freaking out. I finally get to blow the damn horn. And I was like, yeah, cool. And the color schemes and everything, we've already talked about that from the trailer reactions. I think I'm surprised at Odin's choice in hair color. Having the black hair, it seems odd to me. I didn't picture him with black hair, like the slick black hair. I imagined it was going to be silver or white or something like that, or gold even. I did not expect that, but I think it suits him. I think it looks okay. It still looks pretty badass. So yeah, color scheme wise. But yeah, the other one scene I want to talk about, other than the Heimdall stuff, I think everything was done really well, was the sort of the fourth wall breaking, sort of their opening gambit that, hey, this show ain't for kids. And I think that's sort of why they waited for any of the gore and they moved that scene with Incubus and stuff like that. I think that they're moving that because they're basically letting the audience know halfway through, this is not for your children. Even though it's cartoons and it's fun and it's on Netflix, yeah, no, this ain't for kids, because Brunhild actually drops, the F-bomb. She actually just goes up, and Brunhilde just basically goes, the gods have been fucking with humans for too long, so now it's time for them to kick their ass. And then Gull sort of does a little bit, I like to think of it as like semi-fourth wall breaking, be like, did you just say fuck? Sort of idea. Like, I thought that was quite funny. I don't remember that scene being in the manga, so if it was, I forget about it. I didn't reread the chapter or anything, but yeah, I thought that was a key, that was so funny. I didn't really expect it, but it's good to know that they're not going to hold back in the language department. At least they're going to use that R rating to its fullest. So I'm curious to see if they're going to, do the same with the gore and the graphic violence. So can't wait to watch episode 2. I'm going to watch it right now, guys. I don't know how I don't know if these videos are going to be produced a single day. I might have to produce a couple a day. I just don't know, because I'm too excited to keep watching, and I certainly don't want to be spoiled. That's the other problem. Everybody else is going to binge watch it, and I don't want to be spoiled on anything that happens, whether it's good or bad or great or terrible. I don't want to be spoiled. So not so much story-wise, because I know what happens, but more so in key scenes. So yeah, but final conclusion, I think that it was a solid start. Episode 1 was perfectly fine. I give it an 8 out of 10, easy. Was it perfect? No. Was there some lacking scenes and a few too many stills or moving panels? Absolutely, there was. But I think, once again, I'm going to hold out judgment still to this day, because the animation we do see in the episode is perfectly good, and at least all the stills, even though they are stills, look clean. They look very detailed, very well done. I don't really have much to complain about. So final thoughts, 8 out of 10, starting off pretty damn strong, and I'm just going to go watch episode 2. Like, I can't sit here anymore, guys, talking about this. I could keep raving and my anticipation, but I have it paused right now. What am I still doing talking to you guys about it? Let's go watch episode 2, and I'll be right back to review episode 2, because I just can't wait. So I hope you guys are enjoying it just as much as I am, and if you are disappointed, if you still hold to the fact that you're like, nah, this ain't that great, I urge you to just keep watching. Keep watching, give it a few episodes, and if you really don't like it, well then, I'm sorry you don't, but so far I'm loving it. I really am. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys have been enjoying the season so far. Some of you are probably already done. You probably watched all 12 episodes because you could not put it down. And I don't blame you one damn bit. So like, comment, subscribe as always, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget to drink responsibly as always. And we will see you guys back here again for episode 2 review. I'm excited. I hope you guys are too. See you next time. Signing out.